Good morning, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us this morning on Your Voice, an open Q&A with me, Whitey. Looking forward to today's session and really appreciate you joining us. Before we get on, though, remember, make sure you got your cup of coffee handy, nicely freshly brewed. And each week, my darling wife makes me something for morning tea, so I hope you got yours this morning. Orange and poppy seed cake straight out of the oven. I think, though, I've got to tell my wife or remind my wife, I'm actually diabetic, so I shouldn't be having that. Anyhow, we'll work through it. That's life. Hey, I just want to touch base with all of you. Just firstly, there's been an email going around overnight. Many of you may have got it, and it's titled up AFCA Watch. These emails are coming out from an unknown source. They are publicly defaming a staff member, which is completely inappropriate, and we'll probably see them with legal challenges, as well as taking pot shots at AFCA. Now, we had AFCA on the other week with Q&A with Whitey. We'll all sit here and say they're not perfect, we're not perfect, and they're doing their best, and there's room to improve. And we've been working very closely with AFCA with that, as well as my guest today has been working with us as well. But this is not the way to go about things, and I have written to AFCA expressing my disappointment with this, that I condemn the actions of this email, and I would encourage all of you to unsubscribe from it. I don't know how they got people's emails address. I'm assuming it's a breach of the Spam Act, and as well as other breaches of law here in Australia that this will bring. So if you get this thing called AFCA Watch, unsubscribe from it, delete it. It's not the way to deal with things. And if you do have issues, and if you do want to deal with something that you feel is outside of AFCA's terms of reference or isn't tracking along the right way, and you believe most unquestionably that you're in the right, email me direct, and I can take a look at it, and I can have a chat to AFCA if it's an appropriate thing to do, up to their highest levels, as I have done early this morning. Yeah, let's not go about things this way. This is not professionalism. This is just garbage, grubby stuff. Anyhow, let's move on from that. Time to get started with today. I want to thank our sponsors who support us each week and each year with the work that they do. And if you're with us in Melbourne yesterday or the day before, where we had our first round of e-summits that we're conducting in a two-part series, so we do half one day, half the next, you would have heard from a lot of our sponsors and what they're doing, especially in the lending sphere, with where they're up to in the current marketplace, to get an update as to what they can and can't do and where they're at today and where they're heading in the future. And I suggest as we go around the country with our e-summits to each state, make sure you join in, and you'll hear a lot more from our sponsors and our lenders that support us as to what they're doing through the COVID-19 period. And I trust you're all well and staying safe. Well, now it's time to introduce our guest, a dear friend of mine, a great friend of the association, and someone who is such an enormous wealth of knowledge and passion for our industry, the one and only Tanya Sale. Welcome, Tan. How are you, mate?
Good, buddy. How are you? And I've got my little
good. Oh, good to see the coffee. That's the way to be.
Putting on weight. Oh.
Yeah, well, it's yes, it's something I've got to address as well. But anyhow, I'll deal with that another day. So, you've been keeping well, Tanya?
I have. I've been keeping extremely well, Peter. I might just add on what you just said too. It was disappointing. I got notified from a lot of our members late last night about this AFCA Watch email. And all I will say on the whole subject, and I've said that to the Outsource members this morning, it's always best to lobby an organisation like you've done, like we've done together as well, Peter, and then monitor the process. Now, AFCA is to be our ally. We're not against each other. They have been very open to a lot of the suggestions we have made. Peter, you've been involved very much with them, and, you know, they're learning as well as they go along. So it's about working with them, not getting involved in this rubbish. So I would be extremely disappointed if any Outsource members were even part of this, which they're not. They just have to delete the email. So
yeah, I deleted it. It's very disappointing, and especially too, taking an attack on an individual, an employee. That is just so wrong. And it's not only defamatory, but geez, things are tough enough when we're in the sort of environment we're in at the moment, and we're all trying to make sure that we do the best we can by everyone. And you get some moron start something like this, and it's just wrong. There are far, far better ways to deal with these things than doing it like that, and we know this. But yeah, we're not here to talk about that. We've done our bit on that.
Forget about that,
Rob. Yeah, bit of an uppercut on the way through, and we'll march on. Now, listen, Tan, I have got 1,000,001 questions that have come through to be asked of you, so I hope you're ready for the drilling.
I'm a bit nervous to tell you.
No, you'll be right. You'll be right. Hey, but before we do any of that, I'd love everyone to get an understanding of your background and your history, because you are an enormous wealth of knowledge in our industry and have this incredible background in senior levels in what we do. I think it'd help people to get a bit more of an understanding of Tanya Sale as Tanya, and what that background looks a bit like. You want to share a little with us?
Why not? I'll just do a very small snapshot of it. So I come from the banking background. I was in banking since, oh my God, I'm too scared to say how many years, but it's been like probably about 25, 30 years. So of course I was young when I started. From there, I held high level roles within those organisations, but very much so in the third party market. So I was one of the lucky ones when the mortgage broking division started appearing into the lenders, that I was very much involved. Originally from Queensland, and I might say Queenslander through and through, doesn't matter where I live or work, always be a Queenslander deep down. So from there, I came to Sydney, and I had the fortunate, I guess it was only a short time because then they were taken over by a major bank. It was Colonial. And Colonial was one of the most innovative lenders or banks that I'd ever been involved in. And they were very big in the mortgage broking market, the third party market. They were really driving it. And I was part and parcel of that. And of course, then they were bought by a major bank, and I assisted in implementing the aggregation, the third party division into that there, along with the other managers of that bank. Then I was so passionate about the mortgage broking industry. I always thought that the professional services sector, which was the planners, the accountant and the legals, I always thought that they were going to be like part of the new era into that third party market. And hence I went from the major bank in third party, I went to Law Fund, which was an aggregator. And they were an aggregator at the time, mainly for lawyers. And I know it sounds really wild now, but lawyers back then were also adding a lending bolt-on to their business.
So that would have been back in the late 90s, Tan?
Yeah, well, I went to Law Fund in 2002.
Oh, 2002. Okay. Yeah.
Remember, they were already existing, but then I was there for about 5 years. But in that time, I became CEO of Law Fund, and I changed the model to incorporate mortgage brokers, referrers, meaning financial planners and accountants. So I changed the models, and those models became extremely successful. So successful, in fact, that Account Financial back in around, I think 2006, asked me to come and build a national aggregator for them. And Count at the time was one of the largest, the largest independent wealth dealer groups in Australia. I mean, it's now owned by CBA. Oh, I think they may have sold it. So I built FinConnect as well for that organisation. FinConnect at that time was an award-winning, we got it, grown it to an award-winning aggregator. And then I thought, well, you know, I'm building all these big corporates and aggregators businesses for other companies. They were kind of my models, and I wanted to not just be bedded down to one institution where I couldn't grow. Hence, Outsource Financial was born in 2000. Now, So not 2000, I'm losing it, 2010. So it's our 10 years anniversary. It's award winning, all these accolades that we've gotten. And we're just one of the largest independent mortgage aggregators in Australia. So I've been in the mortgage broking third party. I've never been a mortgage broker, but I've been in the third party arena and aggregation for a long time, Peter.
Great stuff. And what a brave move to set up a new business as we're entering to a new regulatory regime under the NCCP, which was causing enough angst at the time for people who've been in in an established business, let alone setting up one from scratch in 2010. Well done, what a great journey. And importantly, Tanya, and I know we do a lot together, but I'm always so inspired by your knowledge and depth of understanding of things. It's and this is why. You've certainly cut the mustard and earned the stripes on the way through. It's fantastic.
Thanks, Peter.
No, please. And so tell me, what sort of activities then are Outsource doing, before we go into other questions, but what sort of activities are you guys doing at the moment with your brokers?
Oh man, I mean, for us, I'm glad you used the word activity because when all this started, I said to the team, it has to be imperative that there's a lot of activity with our members. And I reckon I've got the A team. I'll tell you now, I mean, I'm probably biased, but I reckon I've got the A team in the industry.
A little bit.
So the things that we're doing when even before in lockdown. So before lockdown started occurring, it was imperative for us as a business to ensure our members knew what a business continuity plan was and how they were going to implement it when they were going to be in lockdown. We had already implemented it because we wanted to test all our equipment and everything for everybody at home when this was going to occur. So first and foremost, it was that. So we had a go-to webinar with all our members to guide them on technology and other equipment types, things on what they can do and what a business continuity plan was, and help them implement it. So what we did, we then created a BCP page on our website, our secured member website, and that became the focal point of all these updates going in. They could go to that page and see what was happening with every lender, in regard to any other things going on in regard to COVID. That has been, and it still is, very, very popular and successful. But another big thing for us was keeping our members active. Now, Heather Gallagher, and kudos to Heather Gallagher, who's our state manager for New South Wales ACT, and she brought in the other team members, our own team members as well, created, and here we go, I always get this tongue-tied, it's called, and still is, Learn La Palooza. And what it was and what it is the National Virtual Learning Festival to give our members the opportunity to, especially in these challenging times, to refresh and upskill themselves. Because again, then they can then follow that through to their client as well. So for us, there was 3 components of that. One, the technical training. So as everybody would know, or maybe not everyone would know, but our outsourced software is called iOutsource, but it's Sales Tracker. Now, we believe Sales Tracker is one of the most innovative and advanced software in Australia. What it does is unbelievable. It's taking our members to another level. It's predicting things in advance that we think, oh God, we wouldn't have expected that. So and they're hands-on. And the big thing for us, Peter, is that it was independent. So that was one component. So it's upskilling on the software. So that's helped our members because, being in lockdown, we've got to look at the positive sides of it as well. And that is that it's gave us time, 1, to do business differently, 2, to upskill that we were probably falling down a bit, and technology is always one of those. And 2, what we did was we had to ensure that our members were always in contact and made active with our lenders.
Yeah,
So
it's the important pieces. I mean, the business continuity planning, the activity, and then trying to keep on tech is always a never-ending battle. But I think a lot of us have never thought in the past about business continuity planning, because there's probably not too many of us, or lesser of us these days, that went through things like the GFC, when all of a sudden things hit a wall and you sort of go, oh crap, how do I deal with this? So the BCP piece, the business continuity planning, is really important for all brokers, and it's great you guys have done such a great job with that, and the training hub and the activity hub that you have, because I think that's it's all important to everybody to stay engaged, but also stimulated, mentally stimulated in this marketplace. So
yeah, and a big thing for us, Peter, was that yes, very much on the business side, like we did the BYO and CUPPers with the lenders. The state heads did that with the lenders, so they could get updates on what the lenders were doing. Compliance education was major as well, and it's about doing things a bit different. So what this has taught us as a business, and it's certainly taught our members, and probably all brokers out there that's watching today or even in the industry, that we learned to do business a bit different. Now, you're right. Who would have thought we would have been in Australia or anywhere locked down and not able to leave our homes? None of us would have been prepared for that. But we had a business continuity plan, and we finally got to use it. I wouldn't want to use it very often, I might add. But we have had major success for our members, with our members, and they're going well.
That's excellent. Hey, we need to get on to some of these questions, because whilst we're talking, I'm getting questions coming in fast and furiously. So I better start and get on top of some of that. Otherwise, our time will be up before we get anywhere. Hey, there's a whole lot of questions that are industry generic and some targeted towards yourselves as from an outsourced position, but more so, I guess, from an aggregator's position, because we've got a fairly broad audience here. A question that's come through is, do you think that going through this process is going to make aggregation or aggregators stronger, or do you think it has a different movement as things go forward? I mean, obviously, yeah, don't get me wrong, it's one of those questions I expect an answer, I expect a certain answer will come, but yeah, you sometimes do these things, and some businesses get weakened during these things and other industries grow stronger. What are your thoughts from not just an outsourced position, but an aggregation position as an industry sector?
That's actually a really good question. So thanks for that. I believe aggregators got stronger. So we were prepared, I believe, for something not like this, but we were prepared after the Royal Commission. I think the Royal Commission really changed the landscape of aggregators. We were very much asked to ensure that we had a management control and overview of our members, or the brokers, to make sure we had the software or the technology in place that was going to take us as an aggregator. And I'm not just talking about ours, I'm talking about all aggregators. Take us forward. The lenders then started required certain things of aggregators, and so did ASIC. So
they started doing specific audits, didn't they, at one stage?
Very much.
That never used to be in the past.
No, I mean, there was audits happening, and I guess what it will do, and even going forward now through COVID and everything, it will work out who's going to be and survive strong, and aggregators, they'll just get stronger. There may be the smaller aggregators that may have suffered, but the aggregators that were system-wise, business-wise, financial-wise, all those components start coming into play with COVID.
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, do I think aggregators will be weakened or stronger? There will be the core group that will be stronger.
Yeah, excellent. Oh, I better thank Chris for that question. Otherwise, I'll be taking that person's glory for a good question. But yeah, thanks, Dan. And also, too, and this is one that I've been looking at of late in part, but a question that's come through from James around working towards getting standardised forms like VOI. I also see things like, why don't we have standardised forms for the Privacy Act, for loan application forms, discharge forms? VOI is the one that James has asked about. Have you had any feelings from what you see in your role as to what may or may not be happening now? I know we had Lixie come in donkeys years ago. One of their first things was trying to get a common application form together, and that's never happened. But have you got any feelings around that?
Yeah, I have. I think it's going to go down the same path as we're trying to get a generic application form. I don't know how many years, Peter, you and I have been trying to get this, and the other aggregators, trust me, have been trying to get this as well, a generic application form. So we've been pushing and pushing and pushing for years, but unfortunately, it's the banks. So they're saying, no, this is what our form looks like, and we need these components in this form because of. So that's the struggle that we'll always find. And it's, again, you look at VOI. Every lender now is going to choose what their system is going to be acceptable for them.
What a pain in the ass that is.
Well, it is, and this is where the mortgage broker piece becomes stronger and stronger. With all these challenges we've had over the last few years, we're just going to get stronger. Mortgage brokers are going to get stronger because it's going to be put back to them to be able to have this wealth of knowledge on all sorts of those components. So, no, I don't think there is going to be a generic, because exactly what I just said. The lenders have their own systems and process in place, and none of them are on the same page.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, another question's come through. It is more directed at Outsource as a business, but what sort of things, I may ask past it, but what sort of things does Outsource do to enable their brokers to retain, I guess the old question I'll put in my words, how does the broker retain ownership of the client and it doesn't wind up being taken over by somebody else? The second part of this question talks about what are the commission splits from referrals, but that's not a conversation for the day. If that person wants to ask that question, they need to come to you direct. But so we won't touch that piece. But how does that work within Outsource? Because I know every broker asks this. I'm worried about, somebody's going to take over the ownership of my client. How does that work in Outsource?
Yeah, well, being independent, you probably know the answer to this. We are so passionate about the client ownership. The client ownership is of the members. The members own that client. So it's their book. Even though we're the aggregator and we're managing oversight, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, these are our members' clients. So they can sell their book to anybody they choose. I mean, it'd be like me saying to our members, oh, you can't sell that book because blah, blah, blah. And they say to me, well, you can't sell Outsource Financial, blah, blah, blah. It's their book, their clients. They can do what they want with it.
Okay. Yeah, sweet.
I hope that answers the question. Plus, it's black and white. It's our members own their clients. It's their client ownership is with our members. Gotcha.
Yeah, no worries. And a question, I guess, to yourself as well as, have you had any word back from your lenders on how trail is being treated for clients who are deferring mortgage payments, say, for 6 months? The question he says, lenders seem to be unclear. You may have a greater insight.
Well, a lot of the lenders, I believe, have been quite clear on this. I mean, we get updates as well regularly. And the first thing that happened was there was a lot of talk about when these deferred mortgage payments were happening. A lot of our members were worried. They're going, well, you know, Tanya, that means we're not going to get trail for it. But, you know, kudos to credit where credit's due. And so a lot of the lenders came out and said, no, you'll still be getting trail because it comes off, it's not the same situation as like paying out or going into arrears. Pardon me. So trail will still keep on getting paid, but remember, it's deferred for 6 months. And I think that's going to be the big question is after 6 months, then what happens? So whilst it's deferred payments, you're going to get trail. After that period is up, then that's when we'd have to have a look and wait for the lenders to come back to us.
Yeah.
Now,
I would assume though that once you come out the back end of the 6 months, so long as you're making your normal monthly payment, trail will continue because it doesn't fall into the process or the technology triggers to stop trail. So it hasn't become in default as such.
Correct.
Would that be fair?
Yeah, that is fair, and common sense, one would hope, would prevail. I believe it will prevail.
Sorry, we're talking about banks.
Well, maybe not.
Who said that? Who said that?
No, look, you know, we just have to go with the flow on this. We really do.
Okay.
Trail's in,
All right.
6 months deferred. They keep on paying their payments that you'll get trail, I hope.
Okay. Yep. No worries. Also, I've got an interesting question here, which I must admit hasn't been put to me before. And I've had many questions around clawback, but it's not the question you think. This question asks, why upfront commissions can't be paid in equal monthly payments like trail as a potential solution to clawbacks. So your upfront trail, instead of being paid as a, you know, whatever it is upfront, splitting it into equal payments over a period of time like trail. My first thought is from a business point of view, give me the money today. But what are your thoughts on that?
No, my first business thought would be what an administrative nightmare. That would be my first thought.
Yeah, that's fair call. Yeah.
And that's that would be my first call.
Yeah.
I don't know. The upfront's is there for a reason, you know. The upfront's there for a reason. You've done the work, and trust me, a hell of a lot of work goes into an application in this day and age. You know, you've got to put food on the table, and if you start dividing it or making it monthly, dividing by the 12, I just don't think that's a good cash flow for any business, to tell you the truth. The trail is there.
Yeah, I guess you got the trail over time as it is.
Correct.
Yeah. Hey, have you seen any rise in fraud by clients and any things that brokers should look out for? I know we actually saw one the other day, and when I say we, it came through via a member, which the member had done nothing wrong, but it was all in connection with an interstate transaction, and because you can't move interstate at the moment, the deal got done, but obviously there was an issue. And I guess that's the challenge if you're doing a cross-border transaction, because that visual, that hands-on component is a challenge. But that to one side, we see very little of this from our members, but are you seeing any signs of things happening and any advice for brokers on that?
I haven't seen any increase in fraud. And I think I know what's happening. I believe that the lenders now have certain systems in place that can detect certain things very quickly. So I believe we'll see, touch wood, a decrease in fraud. I mean, look, we're always going to have fraud. Let's face it. There's always people out there that will try and work out how to get around the systems and process and are of a criminal mind. That's always going to happen. We're in the game of money. So that's always going to happen. But it's how we now try and combat that and decrease it. And the lenders have put in place systems that can detect certain things, and that's what's picking that up quickly. I think us as aggregators are also doing a lot more, and going back to the questions ages ago about an aggregator being stronger and everything, one of the systems and processes were that we audit a lot more. So us as an aggregator, we're picking things up, but we're also educating our members. And this is where it becomes big. The education of the mortgage broking industry to try and look at things that they wouldn't have looked at before. So certain processes in place and systems in place in their business as well. So I saw fraud increase probably last year. That's where I saw an increase in fraud, and then all of a sudden, well, we've seen just it going down. I can't speak on behalf of the other aggregators, but that's what I'm seeing.
That's right. And this is a great segue into a question that's just come through on my phone. Apologies, I'm looking down. Look at that. And a question I have here is around what do you think the effects are going to be with the new laws that are being introduced for brokers? But expanding upon that, asking us to talk more around the changing climate where regulators have expectations of aggregators to have more oversight and management controls. So what does that mean for brokers, and how do aggregators address this? As much as one can determine at the moment, given not everything's passed through legislation, but it's a hot subject of, I guess, conversation in aggregator land.
Yeah, well, there is a lot more responsibility and accountability on aggregators. I want to make myself probably quite clear on that. A lot has come through. So again, I just touched on audit, but again, it's for us, and we're very big on education at Outsource, very big. Now, we're not just necessarily meaning to brokers, them as well, but our brokers educating the consumer. So that is going to be a very important role for you all as mortgage brokers going forward. For us as an aggregator, we're accountable for every one of our members under our umbrella. And that can be a very heavy weight to carry now, because we have to ensure that we dot the I's and cross the T's too. But we also have to ensure we've got a responsibility to protect our members. So again, we go back. So one of the things I talked about is audit. Audit and compliance. It's probably one of our biggest divisions of an aggregator in this day and age. So there's a lot of audits that go on, and that assists us as an aggregator in picking up trends or a pattern, or seeing that this mortgage broker needs help in this area. It also, we rely on these software systems that we've had to put in place as an aggregator. So we had to really make sure we picked the right one, and we have being Sales Checker. But what that provides us is data. So data is gold, because what that also does is sees a pattern and sees the trends and all that. But we also rely on data from the lenders. So we have to work very closely with our lenders on this type of thing to be able to know the things that the regulatory want of us. You know, they want things like our percentage of owner-occupied to investment. They want, you know, is someone writing more investment and the reason why? So we have to drill down. All these other red flags that we have to have management oversight, management control over is unbelievable. I think mortgage brokers would fall off their chair if they realise what now goes behind the scenes with the aggregators. We're not here just to be have your money.
Hey, are the lenders stumping up with the data? Because to me, your compliance measures, and from where I sit and from what I see going on, of course, but you know, aggregators are almost completely, not quite, but largely relying on the lenders stumping up with data that they probably haven't given you beforehand. Are Are they doing it, or are they working towards it, or is it still a forced exercise somewhere to work through?
Well, they have to do it, and they have to.
I know they have to, but you know what they're like.
Yeah. They're our lender partners.
Yeah, they're wonderful people. We love them.
They're lovely. No, some are doing it right now. There's a lot that's not, and so they're the ones that are work in progress. It's a big thing because the majority of the lenders weren't giving us that data.
That's right.
So, but then again, it comes back to they have to give it to us. So they're working towards doing it. I would say only 10% of our lenders are giving us the data that we require at this point in time. And I would say the other 90 are working on it.
Towards it. Yeah, because this all comes off the back end of the recommendations from the Royal Commission that government have agreed to implement. So they are forced to do it, but for you to meet your what will become regulatory obligations, that can't be fulfilled and delivered unless the lenders deliver to you, because you simply don't have the data they have until they give it to you. So it's very important that the lenders get that right.
Yeah, you're spot on there. But then I go back to the responsibility and accountability of an aggregator. So this is where, for us, we could sit here and wait for the lenders to do this, or we can start gathering a lot of this ourselves, which we have, i.e. this technology and this software is so important for all of us going forward. So we have now put into our sales tracker system the things like the owner-occupied and the investment. So little red flags will come up for us and go, okay, Billy Bunter, hey, Billy, I can see that, 99.9% of your deals are going to this certain lender and they're interest only. So little things like that, all these red flags are happening. So for us as an aggregator, we've had to spend a lot of money and a lot of resources in implementing these processes and these systems, so we can have the data, so we can put our hand on our heart if ASIC ever come knocking.
Yeah, excellent. Hey, I'm just going to acknowledge this because I've got a question here that asks about, are there any concerns over the proposed merger from AFG and Connective? I'm not going to touch that. It's commercially sensitive. Anya will repeatedly tell you she's independent. There's a part of an answer somewhere, but we'll let that one go to the keeper. Another question I've got here from Ray is about the best interest duty and whether or not the impact of the delay will be good or bad. Now, I know from my point of view, I actually think it's very good that we've had this delay. We've been lobbying for a delay for the introduction of BID from last year, and government were pushing back. I won't say it's a perfect storm, but unfortunately, COVID has given us a delivery of something that we've always wanted. And because I believe that it allows us to have a better period of time to educate and train people, and to also make sure that people understand the different components with this. And it's something that we're addressing. I know you will be, Tanya, and all aggregators will be. From our point of view, we're looking at a 101 best practice for implementation of a best interest duty in your business. It's a high level thing, doesn't go into the detail, because in my view, and Tanya, you might backhand me for this, but in my view, the detail lies with the ACL, the aggregator who has that legal responsibility. So we'll be putting out a document, a guide on what 101 best practice looks like, but the actual implementation detail from our point of view comes from the aggregator. And the postponement of the introduction of BID to 1 January 2021 allows for that to play out really well, because we still haven't got that last piece of the puzzle to cement this thing, which is the final guide, the regulatory guidance on the RG for BID. We don't have that yet. We know most of it, we get that. But you also got to make sure if there's anything new comes out of left field, we got that captured as well. And it's that balancing act. If you go too early in the education piece, by the time you get to January next year, you hope like hell people haven't forgotten. But there's implementation of technologies and documents. I'm sure you guys will be putting out to your members and others will be doing to theirs. There's a lot of work to be done behind the scenes. So I actually think the pushback on the time frame is a great thing. What's your thoughts, Tan?
Yeah, no, well, you've been a very strong advocate for us, Peter, in regard to this bit as well. We believe one or two voices are better than 1,000, and you get more things done, which is happening in this case. We believe, and with bid, I've been telling our members, everyone, take a chill pill, because when it comes to best interest of the client, this industry has already done a lot of it. And again, I come back to this Royal Commission, even though we got thrown underneath the bus, and trust me, we got thrown underneath the bus. What it's allowed us to do as an industry is come back bigger and better and stronger, because we've gone, okay, we need to do fine tweaks these things. And the best interest, and call it what you want, but it's about the best interests of the client. We've already done a lot of work on it. I'd say you're right. 99% of it's done. My thing to every broker out there in the industry, might be already done, but you also have to change within your business. So you also have to become a business owner, a true business owner, not just a mortgage broker. So the implementation is on the aggregator. We take our role very seriously. We don't look at ourselves to our members as their aggregator, we're their business partner. So we want to guide them and educate them on that. So risk and compliance, our head of governance, Deborah Ben, is very passionate about these types of things, as we all are. And all these things are going out as we speak. We have our training software that will be available to our members about what they should be doing as a business owner to ensure they're acting in the best interest of their client. Now, this is, I believe, really some of its basic stuff. Gone are the days where you cannot tell a story on a loan application. I remember in the old, and I go back to the old days because I've been around for a while, is I got brought up in the banking world.
Glad you said that.
About when a credit assessor's looking at it, they're only looking at it. Don't ever give them a chance to second guess anything. So you tell the story. Then with bid and anything you're doing now, it's about putting that story down in your notes, in your system. You must document everything, because if anybody comes knocking on your door for an audit and they're querying you, did you act in the best interest of the clients, and show me how? You can say, hey, I've got this covered.
And that is bang on. Every conversation I have with our regulator, and whether it be at the Treasury level or more so with ASIC, because they're the ones who police this, it all comes back to how do you prove it, and you can only prove it in your documentation. If you haven't got your documentation right, you are lining yourself up to be shot somewhere.
Yeah. So he says, she says, ain't gonna cut it.
Nah.
Oh, but you're on.
You'll lose that one every day.
They told me this.
That every day.
You'll lose it every time. Now, does it mean a little bit more work? Yes. But does it mean that you're going to save your business? Hell yes.
Yes.
So that's what, to me, best interest is all about. Yes, we can't go around and fully go boombo, because as Peter, you just said, there's that small part missing of the RG. So when that happens, we'll be all of it like a fat kid at a candy store.
Yeah, we'll be backing you as well with that piece on the guidance, as well as we'll be doing an education piece as we go through the year, as well as to what that best practice model looks like from our point of view, which is then, in my view, supported by the detail, and how you actually implement that is the responsibility of the aggregator. They'll be sorting that out with you, the documentation, the technology, the process you want to manage your obligations.
And can I just say one more thing about this, because I'm pretty passionate about, as you can tell, these types of things. Due diligence, the double D word, it's got to happen. Brokers have got to protect themselves and their livelihood. And doing due diligence, I know that we have, our risk and compliance have created templates, tools, and everything for our members to ensure they've got this sheet on their paper, on their file, that actually goes due diligence. You know, if there's a three-prong attack for income, there's, you know, if there's definitely, did I do the ABN? And it's not, oh, yes, I did the ABN. It's like, I've done a snapshot where I've Googled the ABN, looked at it, put it on. All these things, I just can't really talk enough of it. This due diligence has to happen. It has to happen, and trust me, it will save you.
And I think the bid as well as COVID are both creating new normals for the future, and we've got to adjust for them to whatever they are. And yes, some are going to be a real pain in the ass because it's going to be more documentation, and it might cost you an extra 15, 20 minutes or whatever it is. But you know, as you said, to save your business, to make sure that no one can throw stones at you or boulders if they try. And at the end of the day, you can stand strong and proud in the industry. Because I actually firmly believe this best interest duty is something that'll be a stepping stone for our industry to reach 70% or higher of market share of originated mortgages in this country. In the UK, it's over 70%. I think this is a stepping stone for us that we can say, look, by law, I do it anyhow as a person. As an individual, I do this anyhow, but I have laws surrounding me that insists and ensures that I put your interest ahead of mine. Your bank can't say that, but I can.
You're spot on, mate, and we will get to 70%. Can I just raise one thing? I don't know if anyone's asked this question about the comprehensive credit reporting. I don't know. No. Okay, I don't know if a lot of our members or brokers out there know that it's started, this open banking. I believe what's going to happen in the future, that offerings like Equifax are going to be made compulsory by the aggregators to protect you, our members. And the reason why is, with this comprehensive credit reporting, they'll see things like credit cards, telcos, things like that, lots of it. Now, if you don't address in your notes, and this is where we go back to making sure your notes, when you send in an application, that, okay, there's a, and this is hypothetical, I'm just pulling a, I'll go Bank ABC, right? There's a credit card for Bank ABC. The credit assessor picks it up and goes, you haven't disclosed this credit card, bro. That's an undisclosed debt, decline. And you go, no, Banky, that's not true, because if you have a look in my notes, I've already done a credit search, and I noticed that there was an ABC credit card there that what the client didn't tell me. I've already addressed that, and that was closed, but within that bank's office, they hadn't closed it off in one of the divisions. Things like that. I believe CCR is going to be a big impact for us, and us as an aggregator, we're going to be educating our members on little things to do, so we don't have that situation.
Yeah. So in that example, though, wouldn't open banking, in theory, fix that problem? So if administratively somewhere it had fallen off an edge, wouldn't I would kind of hope a bank would capture it? No,
system is 100% bulletproof. So
I get that.
Little things like this that could come up, you know.
Yeah.
Now it's coming up as we speak. So you don't want to be one of these brokers that get caught in and going, hold on, you declined my client's loan. They haven't even got that. It's again coming down to due diligence and addressing. Yeah. So these bank statements like Hashtag, the Equifax credit reports, things like that are just going to be part and part of a mortgage broker's business going forward, I believe.
Yeah. Hey, I've got a really interesting question I'd love your thoughts on, because I've seen this as well through member feedback. The question from Ray is around, lately the big four are falling ridiculously behind, and we don't know the truth until we get the application. Why aren't they being truthful? And I guess this is around the big delays in loans getting picked up. Yeah, because I've been hearing stories up to 31 to 34 days before a loan application's been picked up. What the, you know, so many superlatives are coming to my mind and I can't say, but what the hell? What's this about?
Oh, it's manic out there, and you're right.
Yeah.
It's at the moment it's the big four are copying a hammering. Mainly the 3 out of the 4, and I won't tell you which the 4th one, but the 3 out of the 4 that are copying a hammering is just it's damaging their brand, to tell you the truth. What is happening is, and I've been against this right when it started. As you know, I rang you and I said, this shouldn't be happening. Cash incentives.
Yeah.
So I thought we went through a Royal Commission about not being able to do things like this. But anyway, these cash incentives that the lenders are giving out has then just created the massive blowout. So the lenders are concentrating on, and I'm going to be brutal here, they're concentrating on, and this is their words as well, purchases.
Yep.
Because the purchases are so important that reach settlement. So the banks are getting the blowout days of, you're talking about 34 or whatever. I believe that it's longer in some of them. Some of them are sitting there nearly 2 months, but they're refinances.
Yeah.
So they're getting pumped, excuse me, with applications on purchases, and we would be thinking, hold on, I thought we were supposed to be going through a downturn because of COVID. Ain't happening. They're getting pumped with applications for purchases. That's their priority. Refinance and cash out are just, it's going in. So the banks, I don't know what more they can do, but they should have been probably predicting this. And again, it's the same old. All this happens. They do an incentive, volume goes through the roof. They don't have the credit assessor resources or the back end, and boombo. This is what's happening.
You may not want to respond to this, but I would be really pissed if the banks were giving priority to their branches to the detriment of the brokers and creating these delays so they can bolster the branch output. I would be so dark if that was what was going on behind the scenes.
Oh, I think you find every aggregator in Australia. If that was happening, we would want to know about it. But remember, this is supposed to be a level playing field between the branch network and the third party side. So if that's happening for any of our members, I would definitely want to know, because I would be taking it up with the lender that it happened, and then I would be expecting them to act upon.
So would it be fair to say at the moment you're not seeing that and you don't feel that's the case?
I've only had one case of that.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I got straight on to the head of the third party for that lender, and it was acted upon pretty quickly. Now,
sharp uppercut.
Maybe. They're very, very good relationship.
I know you well enough. It's not maybe.
I mean, I've got a great relationship with our lender partners. I do.
Oh, no, you do.
Yes, I do. No, look, that shouldn't be happening. And that is a conflict of being, that's a conflict, a channel conflict.
Channel conflict. Yeah, most certainly. Hey, I see my time is starting to wind down on me, so I've only got time for a couple of last little questions. And one that's come through, and this may round us off anyhow, Tasha's asked, what is the one piece of advice you would give to brokers in the current climate?
Okay, again, that's a good question. All of these have been good questions. My strongest advice that I gave to our members is activity. The one word is activity. And what do I mean by that? You being very active with your clients, like just like we did. You know, we created all this activity for our members to ensure that they passed on that activity to their clients. If you do not touch base or be active, and not just ringing them or emailing them, you know, give them some creativity tools to use as well, because they're in lockdown. Activity. And I could probably leave it at that on that note, because I'll go on all day about that and what you should be doing. But you have to, these are your clients. You have to be there on your side.
I agree. I completely agree. In the old days, in my first brokerage that I set up back in the 80s, I always used to talk about wearing the leather off your shoes, because your activity was walking around banging on doors, which you don't do these days. But I went through that many damn pairs of leather shoes, it wasn't funny. And then again, in the latter part of the 90s, I was Mark Boris's CEO at Wizard with his first entree, and Mark always used to talk about making your own luck. Now, it wasn't throwing a coin or anything, but it was the activities. And Tanya's so bang on. And in one respect, it's not new, but it is so fundamentally sound to success, is creating your activity. And if you sit on your ass and do nothing, guess what the result is? Nothing.
Exactly. And Pete, this pandemic has been something that we've never seen in our lifetime, ever. And I tell you now, the clients of the mortgage brokers that have been very active within them, they'll remember this, and their mortgage broker forever a day, that their mortgage broker was with them every step of the way through this pandemic, because they would have been worried sick, what's going to happen. They would have thought doom and gloom, you know, people are losing jobs, everything like this. All they heard out there in the media was doom and gloom. It's not all doom and gloom, but that mortgage broker that would have been right by their side, you watch their business grow.
Yeah, all the step away. And those words are also echoed from George Samuels, who was with me last week. The same sort of thing, is that interaction, that connection, that activity with your client. And it's interesting how much of a resounding comment it is from people in different areas of our industry over a long period of time. And it is just so true. It's, I think that's the ultimate piece of gold we all need to take away and do something about. Because if you don't, it's going to be to your own detriment.
Oh, totally. And it's just not on the business side as well. I mean, Melinda, who's my EA, we were talking one day and going, you know, we've got to really do something different for our members in the lockdown. And we came up with learning lockdown for kids. So for all our members, what we put together, we spoke to an educational person and gave us all these little, I guess, games and resources that we could send out to our members, and they sent it out to their clients. And the feedback we got from that is because the client said to the member, you just didn't care about me on the business side, you actually cared about me on the personal side. So that was a big one as well.
Yeah, that is a big difference when you actually, and it's that care from a genuineness. It's not a put on or a false thing. It's actually because people do give a shit. It's that genuine care, to me, is the greatest and most powerful thing that people can have. Tan, I have run out of time. I have so loved our conversation this morning. I'm sure we've got one of our largest attendances today watching this. I'm sure everybody's thoroughly enjoyed your conversation. I appreciate all that you do, not just for your members, but what you do for the industry and what you do over and above that I know a lot of people don't see. So the work you and I have been doing with Africa and a whole host of stuff we do. Mate, thanks so much. It's such a great pleasure. Loved having you on.
Thanks, Pete. Love being on.
Pleasure. All right, well, take care. Okay, well, that was Tanya Sale. What a great conversation that was. I could do these every day of the week, so it'd probably bore you too much. Let's move on. Next week, as we get to next week, don't forget to register. And our guest next week is the wonderful George Dibb. He's the Managing Director of Amfin, and hopefully a lot of you have seen George around. George is the brains behind what's been going on in social media, not just in his own business, but the brains behind the joke of the day. Someone told me it was meant to be dad jokes. I don't think mine was quite a dad joke. But anyhow, I think I got away with it okay. So he's the man that was behind joke of the day. He's been around social media, and he's about to start. I think he's just started something new as well. And we're going to talk about that next week, together with what Amfin's doing in the marketplace. So make sure you register and be a part of that conversation. Before we finish, again, thank you to our sponsors who continue to support us, and more so, they support you, and that's an important thing. And as I said at the opening, make sure you get into log on to the FBAA's e-summits that we're doing around the country at the moment. Make sure you register for those, because we'll give you a lot more detail and a lot more first-hand one-on-one conversation as to what all these people are doing, as well as a whole host of things we're doing on the regulatory front and other things that are important to you in your keeping your business going. So thanks for joining us. Once in the next hour or so, you will get an email from the FBAA, which will give you a code for your CPD points. And there's also a short survey, which would be great if you can complete it. We'd love your feedback as we go through. Thank you once again for joining us this week. I look forward to seeing you next week with George. And in the meantime, stay safe. We'll see you then.